Lu Jinian pursed his lips, casually throwing his white shirt into the laundry basket. He made his way upstairs and looked in the medicine box in the corner mirror of his wide changing room. He took the cotton swabs and used all his strength to stretch his arm out to clean the wound on his back. The pain brought an expression of discomfort to his face. There were some places he couldn't reach, and after a couple more unsuccessful tries, he eventually gave up. He closed his medicine box and stood half-naked in front of his floor-to-ceiling window. The stars in the night sky, halfway up the mountain, were very clear. The shining lights above were dazzlingly beautiful. Lu Jinian stared at the sky for a while, until he saw a faint outline of Qiao Anhao's face appear among the stars. At that moment, he was completely transfixed, but his phone suddenly rang. He abruptly snapped back to reality to find that it was all just an illusion. He lowered his eyes, standing still in his spot, then headed to the bedroom. He picked his phone and saw a notification. The director of Alluring Times was calling. Lu Jinian's fingers swiped the screen to accept the call. "Mr. Lu, about the swing incident this afternoon, it's been investigated. When the stage prop crew were preparing the props, there was a mistake. They didn't notice that the rope was thinned out. I already gave them a good yelling. How would you like to proceed with this incident?" Lu Jinian's voice sounded slightly heartless when he asked, "Are you sure you've investigated thoroughly?" People from the stage prop crew said so themselves. Lu Jinian held the phone without saying a word. Even though they were a phone call away, the director still felt Lu Jinian's silence pressuring him to the point where it was difficult to breathe. His forehead was covered in sweat. After a good while, Lu Jinian finally said, "Since you've investigated thoroughly, I'll leave it to you to handle." There was clearly no emotion in Lu Jinian's tone of voice, but you could hear the director's weak heart in his. The director spoke in a tone you'd use for negotiations when he carefully said, "I'll fire them all right away for an entirely new crew, Mr. Lu. How does that sound to you?" "That's up to you. I just hope that a situation like this will never happen again." Lu Jinian spat out the ruthless words before hanging up. When the director heard the doot-doot sound through the phone, he let out a long sigh of relief. He turned his head and looked at producer Sun and Lin Shi, who was sitting in his room. He raised a hand to wipe away the sweat on his forehead. Then he looked over at Lin Shi and said in traumatized voice, "It's not like you don't know that Mr. Lu has always disliked conflict amongst her crew. This time, for Chief Sun's sake, I helped you cover this up, but if this happens again, I'll definitely not interfere." Lin Shi smiled sweetly at the director. "This time, thank you so much, Director."